The Donald, a man of many faces. Donald Trump, a name synonymous with, well, a lot of things. Luxury hotels, check. Reality TV stardom, check. But that's just scratching the surface. From the glitzy towers that bear his name to the boardrooms of The Apprentice, Trump has always been a larger-than-life character. His journey from a real estate mogul to a reality TV star, and eventually the President of the United States, is nothing short of extraordinary. A Twitter feed that reads like a teenager's after too much Red Bull. Oh, double check. His tweets have been a source of endless controversy, humor, and sometimes bewilderment. Whether he's announcing policy changes or engaging in late-night rants, his social media presence is as unpredictable as it is influential. But behind the spray tan and the ever-present scowl lies a man of contradictions. He's a figure who can be both charming and abrasive, often in the same breath. His public persona is a carefully crafted image, but what about the man behind the mask? Is he the shrewd businessman he claims to be, or is there more to the story? A self-proclaimed billionaire who's been accused of, shall we say, creative accounting. His financial dealings have been the subject of much scrutiny and debate. From bankruptcies to tax controversies, Trump's financial empire is as complex as it is vast. Yet he continues to project an image of unparalleled success. A master negotiator who seems to start trade wars with the same ease most people order coffee. His approach to international relations has been unconventional, to say the least. Whether it's renegotiating trade deals or engaging in high-stakes diplomacy, Trump's tactics have often left both allies and adversaries scratching their heads. Love him or hate him, and let's be honest, there's not much middle ground here. You can't deny that Donald J. Trump is an American original. His ability to captivate and polarize the public is unparalleled. He's a man who thrives on controversy and seems to relish the chaos that surrounds him. He's like that uncle who shows up to Thanksgiving in a golf outfit and proceeds to dominate the conversation, whether you want him to or not. His larger-than-life personality is impossible to ignore, and his influence on American culture and politics is undeniable. So buckle up, folks, because we're about to take a wild ride through the life and times of one of the most polarizing figures in modern history. From his early days in Queens to the Oval Office, Donald Trump's story is a roller coaster of ambition, controversy, and undeniable impact. Whether you view him as a hero or a villain, there's no denying that his story is one for the ages.
From real estate to reality TV, the Apprentice Years. Before he was President Trump, he was simply the Donald, a brash New York real estate mogul with a penchant for gold plating and putting his name on everything. His empire began with the renovation of the Commodore Hotel into the Grand Hyatt, a project that set the tone for his future endeavors. Seriously, the man loves his name in big, shiny letters. Trump Tower, with its gleaming facade and opulent interiors, became a symbol of his larger-than-life persona. But Trump's early career wasn't all glitz and glamour. The real estate market in New York was a tough battleground, and Trump had to navigate through numerous challenges. He faced accusations of discriminatory housing practices, which led to a lawsuit by the Department of Justice in the 1970s. The case was settled, but it left a mark on his reputation. Trump also battled bankruptcy more times than most people change their socks, with his casinos and hotels often teetering on the edge of financial ruin. Yet he always managed to bounce back, often with the help of strategic partnerships and high-profile deals, and even managed to turn a cameo in Home Alone 2 into a masterclass in awkward self-promotion. His brief appearance in the film became a talking point, showcasing his knack for staying in the public eye. And then came The Apprentice, the reality TV show that would redefine his public image and catapult him to a new level of fame. Suddenly, the world was invited into Trump's boardroom, where he fired people with the kind of relish most reserved for a perfectly cooked steak. The show was a blend of business acumen and dramatic flair, making it a must-watch for millions. The show was a smash hit, turning Trump into a household name and proving that, hey, anyone can be president. The Apprentice not only boosted his brand, but also laid the groundwork for his future political career, showing the power of media in shaping public perception.
The first term making America different again. In 2016, the unthinkable happened. Donald Trump, reality TV star and walking Twitter controversy, was elected President of the United States. It was the political equivalent of a Chihuahua winning Best in Show at the Westminster Dog Show. Trump's presidency was a wild ride from day one. He slashed taxes, rolled back regulations like he was on a mission from the deregulation gods, and engaged in a foreign policy that could best be described as unpredictable, or, as his critics might say, completely bonkers. He feuded with world leaders on Twitter, withdrew the US from international agreements like they were going out of style, and somehow managed to make the words fake news a permanent fixture in the American lexicon.
Round 2, the sequel. Nobody asked for. You'd think that after 4 years of Trump, America would have had enough. You'd be wrong. The political landscape was more polarized than ever, with supporters doubling down on their loyalty and critics becoming even more vocal. The nation was a boiling pot of opinions, each side convinced they were right. In 2024, Trump defied the odds, and maybe even common sense, by getting re-elected. His campaign was a spectacle, filled with rallies that felt more like rock concerts than political events. The media couldn't get enough, and neither could his base. His second term was like a greatest hits album of his first, only with even more tariffs. He doubled down on his trade war with China, causing ripples across the global economy. Businesses scrambled to adapt, and consumers felt the pinch in their wallets. He slapped tariffs on China like he was playing a high-stakes game of whack-a-mole, each new tariff popping up faster than the last. The trade war became a never-ending saga, with no clear winner in sight. Threatened tariffs on Canada and Mexico, because, why not? Causing tensions with America's closest neighbors. Trade agreements were constantly under threat, and businesses on both sides of the border were left in a state of uncertainty, and somehow managed to make the US economy resemble a roller coaster on the verge of a very steep drop. The stock market experienced wild swings, with investors never quite sure what the next day would bring. Economic stability seemed like a distant dream, and his stance on Ukraine, it was a roller coaster of its own. One day he was offering support, the next he was making statements that left allies scratching their heads. Let's just say it was about as consistent as the weather in New England. Allies and adversaries alike were left guessing what his next move would be, creating a sense of unpredictability on the global stage. One minute he was praising Zelensky, calling him a strong leader and a friend of the United States. The next he was practically offering him up to Putin on a silver platter. The mixed messages left everyone in a state of confusion, wondering what the future held for US foreign policy.
Gap 3S 5. The Siege on the Capitol. January 6, 2021, will forever be etched in American history as a day of chaos and unprecedented violence. The Capitol building, a symbol of democracy, became the epicenter of a riot that shocked the world. But how did we get here? It all began with the 2020 presidential election, an event that was marred by controversy and claims of widespread voter fraud. Despite multiple recounts and court rulings affirming Joe Biden's victory, Donald Trump and his loyalists maintained that the election had been stolen. The rhetoric reached a fever pitch, with Trump calling for his supporters to stop the steal. On that fateful day, thousands gathered in Washington, D.C. for a rally. Trump took the stage, delivering a fiery speech that many believe incited the crowd. He urged his followers to march to the Capitol and fight like hell. What followed was an assault on the very heart of American democracy. Key figures in the insurrection included far-right groups like the Proud Boys and Oath Keepers, whose members were later charged with conspiracy and other crimes. The rioters breached security, smashing windows and vandalizing offices. Lawmakers were forced to evacuate, and the certification of the Electoral College results was temporarily halted. The aftermath was swift and severe. Dozens were arrested, and investigations were launched to identify and prosecute those involved. The FBI released countless images and videos, seeking the public's help in identifying the rioters. The incident led to Trump's second impeachment, as the House of Representatives charged him with incitement of insurrection. The ripple effects of January 6th are still felt today. Security measures at the Capitol have been significantly increased, and the political divide in America has only deepened. The event served as a stark reminder of the fragility of democracy and the lengths to which some will go to undermine it. As we reflect on that day, we must ask ourselves, how did we let it come to this? And more importantly, how do we ensure it never happens again? 5. NATO, you're paying. Or else. Trump's relationship with NATO was complicated. He seemed to view the alliance as some kind of protection racket, constantly demanding that other members pay up or risk losing US support. He bullied, he cajoled. He even threatened to pull the US out of NATO altogether. His approach was about as subtle as a sledgehammer, and it left many European leaders wondering if they'd accidentally elected Tony Soprano to the White House.
6. The world, according to Trump, a globe of confusion. Trump's foreign policy was like a choose-your-own-adventure book, only with potentially catastrophic consequences for the entire world. He alienated allies, cozied up to dictators, and generally acted like the rules of international diplomacy were nothing more than suggestions he could ignore at will. He pulled the US out of the Paris Climate Agreement, because who needs a planet anyway? Attempted to build a wall on the US-Mexico border and make Mexico pay for it, naturally, and brokered peace deals in the Middle East that seemed to unravel faster than you could say Nobel Peace Prize.
7. The art of the lawsuit. Trump's legal greatest hits. If there's one thing Donald Trump loves more than his own name, it's a good lawsuit. The man is a walking, talking litigation machine, with a legal history longer than a CVS receipt. He's been sued for everything from fraud to defamation to sexual assault, and he's countersued with the same enthusiasm most people reserve for their morning coffee. He's like the legal equivalent of a honey badger. He doesn't care what you throw at him, he's coming out swinging. And let's not forget, he's faced impeachment not once, but twice, adding to his legal legacy.
8. A legacy etched in Twitter gold and court documents. So, what's the legacy of Donald J. Trump? It's a complicated one, to say the least. He's a man who defied expectations, shattered norms, and left an indelible mark on American politics, for better or worse. His supporters view him as a folk hero, a champion of the common man who wasn't afraid to speak his mind, consequences be damned. His detractors see him as a threat to democracy, a demagogue who exploited fear and division for his own gain.
9. The final verdict, you be the judge. In the end, it's up to each of us to decide how history will remember Donald Trump. Was he a visionary leader who challenged the status quo? Or a reckless narcissist who did more harm than good? The answer, like most things in life, is probably somewhere in between. One thing's for sure, though, Donald Trump was anything but unpredictable. Follow, like, and subscribe to Map My Saga for more intriguing stories.